Hi everyone, welcome to my garden. Let's talk about trees today. I think trees are very important for a garden to have. Trees give you solid structure and it gives you foundation. It provides natural habitat for wildlife. Birds can have places to perch on and rest on as they hunt for food. And trees just add layers and heights and interest to a garden. So if you're starting out gardening for the first time and you're thinking of what to plant or how to design your garden, my recommendation to you would be think about the trees first. The trees, the hedges, the shrubs, like these big structures that will add to the foundation, you want to consider them first, because once you plant a tree and you leave it in the ground for about 2-3 seasons, it's going to be very tricky to remove the tree or to relocate it, even if it's just like 6 feet away, because the root ball will have already formed and it'll be like quite heavy and it'll just be a little tricky. Today we're going to focus on trees, and not just any trees. I want to talk about trees that are good for small space garden like the one that I have. I'm gardening I live in a cookie cutter home in a corner lot, so my yard is L-shaped, and so one side of the yard, like the one behind me here, this side I have about like 20 to 24 feet of space like in width, and then I have about 30 feet long along the fence here. And this side right here, I have about pretty much same, like 24 feet of space in width and about 40 feet in length. And so within this small space, I think I fit about 16 to 18, almost 20 small trees in this yard, and I'm here to share with you what choices I went with in case you're looking for trees for your garden. And so we're gonna start with this first one that I'm sitting next to here. This is a magnolia tree. It's a deciduous variety. It's a variety called Susan. So Susan magnolia is deciduous in that it loses its leaves in the winter months, and right around March or April in my zone, like in about early spring, you'll start seeing like little buds forming, and once it blooms it looks like this. This is sometimes known as the tulip tree, and you can see why. Look at the blooms. So when they first start to come out, they look a little long and narrow, like this one, these two for example. So they resemble the tulip flowers, and over time, you know, like they'll start opening up and they'll look kind of like this one here. Today is April 29th, so this is kind of the last leg already of the bloom cycle. Once May approaches, like all the blooms will start to fade, and then you'll see these like lime green leaves starting to unfurl. Like I could see some already here. This is a very beautiful tree. I planted this tree in the spring of 2020. I remember it was right around the time that lockdown was about to happen in my area, and so but the garden centers and the nurseries were considered an essential business, so they weren't closed, thank God. So I grabbed this Susan Magnolia and Paris Magnolia from a private-owned nursery, and when I bought it, it was probably about a foot or a foot and a half in height, and right now it's standing at 3 feet. So from spring of 2020 and right now it is spring of 2022, it's about 2 years in the ground. So I would say in terms of growth rate, it has a slow to moderate growth. But what it lacks in growth rate, it makes up for in this beautiful structure. As you can see, like how the branches kind of form. It gives such a beautiful structure to the yard. I love this tree so much. And during the months of March and April, these are their golden months, because they're giving out this like really beautiful blooms. One of the downfalls that I find with this tree is that because it blooms in March and April, and these 2 months are kind of like still the crazy months in my area. Sometimes we would have like late spring frost, or sometimes we would even get snow in the middle of April for like a couple of days, and if temperature dips down low enough, you can lose the buds and you won't get any blooms that year. So that's one of the downfalls that I can think of. Actually the only one really. Other than that, this tree is just great. At full height, of full maturity, this tree will reach about maybe 16 to 20 feet tall, and maybe about like 12 to 16 feet wide, and I've seen it at my friend's house, and they've had this tree for, well, I mean, they've had that house for 10 years, but that tree was there before they moved in, so the tree's older than 10 years for sure. So this, I could rest assured that, you know, this tree is not going to be any like humongous species when it's full grown. So that is Susan Magnolia. I have 5 magnolia trees in this space. 2 of them are of the same variety, so I have 4 different varieties. This one is deciduous. I'm going to take you to the next one that is semi-deciduous, and it's a variety called Sweet Bay Magnolia. Let's go and take a look. So my Sweet Bay Magnolia is going to be at that far end of the yard. The Sweet Bay Magnolia, even though the tag says, or the internet says that it's semi-deciduous, but in my area, it is kind of dependent on the weather. So let's take a look at this. As you can see, it is completely deciduous right now because we've had kind of a pretty rough winter. Like we had a lot of snow, and we had like 2-3 periods of hard freeze, and so this is what it looks like. Sweet Bay Magnolia. This is when I bought it, it was maybe about 2 feet, and right now I think this part right here is a new growth, and this tree's only been in ground for just 1 season. I only bought it last year in spring, and so right now it's been exactly a year, and so it's put on about 1 foot of growth, and I can see like all these like tiny little leaves starting to unfurl. So if you live in zone 8, like, so I live in zone 8, Pacific Northwest, and it's weather dependent whether or not this tree is going to be deciduous or semi-deciduous, but it is a little bit different than my other 2 magnolias, in that the leaves are green, but it has like kind of white or silver undersides. It's beautiful as well, but I've only had it for a year, so I haven't seen the flowers, and so I can't really comment on that. But this tree can grow in a part sun part shade condition. It likes to have moist soil all the time. At full maturity, it is said to be about 20 to 25 feet tall and wide. But I think most of the growths would be like towards the top of the trees. The next 2 magnolias that I want to show you are Southern Magnolias, or Magnolia grandiflora. But what I have in my yard are the dwarf varieties. I cannot afford to have the regular varieties because those Southern Magnolias can grow to be 50 to 60 feet tall and wide, and I just don't have space for it. So let's go and take a look at my dwarf varieties of Southern Magnolia. Okay, so I put my my little Gem and my Paris Magnolias on the sunny side of the yard because those trees, they love to have full sun. So we're gonna take a look. So I have 2 little Gem Magnolias. I have that one there, and that one I planted kind of not too far from Susan Magnolia because they're not gonna be very big, I don't think. Little Gem, at full grown, it's probably going to grow to about maybe 20 feet in height, which is no problem there, and probably about 10 to 15 feet in width, which shouldn't be a problem where I have it. It might give this area a little bit of shade in the future, which is totally fine because I can move the lavender and the roses later on if that's the problem. And I have another magnolia right here. This is also little Gem Magnolia. So I ordered 2 of these little Gem Magnolias at the same time, and they came last spring. So they've been in the ground for about a year. Little Gem Magnolia has nice glossy green leaves with brown undersides. That's a little fuzzy, and the leaves stay like on like this all year. In the summer, it gives out this white, creamy, beautiful, fragrant flowers that will bloom sporadically throughout the season. Although I haven't seen the flowers of Little Gem yet because I've only had it for a year, but I'm super excited for this season because I'm sure they're gonna flower for me. this tree loves full sun, and it likes to have like moist soil. It doesn't, so from what I heard anyway about magnolias, is that it doesn't like to be planted with too many things like underneath. So it likes to kind of like be by itself, like a standalone tree. And so that's what I give it right here. When I bought it, it was about maybe like that tall, like maybe a foot and a half, and right now it has put on almost 2 feet of growth. So in terms of growth, like this is probably very fast growing, just like Paris Magnolia, because they're very similar. They're both the dwarf varieties of southern magnolias. And so that's little Gem. Now let's take a look at Paris Magnolia. Paris is on this corner of my yard. I planted this tree. So this tree I bought right around the same time as I bought Susan Magnolia, which was the spring of 2020. And look at it right now. When I first bought it, it was about like same height, like foot and a half, and right now it is at almost 6.5 feet tall. It's definitely taller than me, and it has like nice glossy green leaves, just like little Gem, with like fuzzy brown undersides like that. Now the flowers of this tree I have seen, it is huge and very fragrant, like super white, creamy, literally like the size of my hand. Like, I'm not joking. And this is like the seed head from last year, when the flower blooms. Oh my goodness, it's such a sight. Like, this is Paris is my favorite magnolia tree out of all the magnolia trees that I have, and I have to whisper because I don't want my other magnolias to hear me. What I've noticed lately about my Paris Magnolia is that it's been sending up some suckers from the bottom trunk. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one's been here a while. So what I'm going to do this season is that I'm going to take this out and stick it in a pot of soil to see if it takes root. And if it does, I'll be so happy. I'll be over the moon, because that means more Paris Magnolia for me. And this tree, I don't know what it is. For some reason, they're not that widely available in my area. It was almost like a fluke that I found this tree from this privately owned nursery. So I bought this tree same time as I bought my Susan Magnolia. And when I went back, they didn't have it anymore the following year or even last year. So that's it about my 4 varieties of magnolia trees. Let's take a look at some of my other trees that are not magnolias. Let me show you my fruit trees. I have 1 peach tree and 2 apple trees, and my peach tree is sitting in this corner here. Peach trees don't take up that much room. Like, mine is standing in the corner. It's about 6 feet away from both sides of the fence. Right now it is, it hasn't really leafed out fully yet. It will start leafing out at around May or so. So in the winter, this area gets full sun, which is why I'm able to plant these tulips here. And in the summer, once the peach tree leaves out completely, it'll get part sun, part shade. And so to replace the tulips, I plant coleus, maybe some hostas, like all those, you know, shade-loving plants in this area. Now, peach tree. I planted this peach tree in the fall of 2018, so it's been about almost 4 years. I consider it full grown already, I think. And right now it is, like, the canopy is about 4 feet wide. So it's relatively small and easy to manage. But one of the problems that I've been having with this tree is a fungal disease called leaf curl disease. And it's been kind of an ongoing problem for me for the last 2-3 seasons. And so I used to spray my peach tree with the fungicide that I would buy from the garden center. But then, like, it kind of helped a little bit, but then I realized that it probably wasn't the best for the environment, so I stopped that. And then I started using neem oil mixed with water to spray it. It helped a little bit, not so much. I still had fungal disease problems with this tree. So this year what I decided to do was nothing at all. I just decided to let nature just take the wheel and see what happens. So I'm gonna wait and see what happens for me this year. If I still have the same problem, I'm probably going to remove the tree completely, because this fungal disease has tendencies to spread to other plants, and if it spreads to other plants in my garden, I mean, I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't feel as bad as if it spreads to like other people's trees and plants. And I think it's illegal too for you to leave your trees being ridden with disease and have it be the cause of the problems. And so if I have the same problems, I'm just going to eradicate it, because and replace it with something else, because I don't want to have to worry about it every spring. And so that's my peach tree. Now let's go and take a look at my apple trees, which is on that side of the yard. So I have 2 apple trees right next to each other, and they need to be next to each other because they need to cross-pollinate. Well, I mean, they don't really need to be next to each other. I mean, but they just have to be close, like in the same vicinity. And so this one is Fuji Apple. And Fuji Apple, it looks a little bit bigger than my Gala Apple, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And right now it is starting to blossom a little bit. I love apple blossoms. They're one of the things I look forward to in spring. Look at this little guy. So this Fuji Apple, I have these 2 apple trees about 8 feet away from each other, 8 to 10 feet away from each other, and that's plenty of space. This is Gala Apple, and Gala Apple is in full blossoming mode at the moment. Gorgeous. Fruit trees are wonderful for small size garden. Even if you have like only 6 feet of space, you can still grow a fruit tree. You can even train them into aspaleas. Like, I've seen a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube on how to train a tree into aspaleas. I haven't tried it, but it just doesn't really look all that difficult. And so yes, fruit trees is something that you might want to keep in mind. This space behind me, this area receives about 6 to 7 hours of morning sun, which is an ideal condition for any tree really. So I chose to put 2 types of trees in this space. This is Bloodgood Japanese Maple, which is a lovely burgundy colored tree behind me here. And then in the far end, I have a cherry blossom tree, a variety called Autumnalis. So let's take a look at my Bloodgood Japanese Maple tree first. I planted this Bloodgood Japanese Maple in the fall of 2020. I had actually just ran out of gardening budget that year before I purchased this tree. And then I realized, oh, there's one more tree that I really, really needed to have. And so I kind of went over my budget a little bit that year, but it was totally worth it, you guys. Let's take a look at this beautiful burgundy colored leaves. So it just started to leaf out, I think about first week of April, and when they the leaves first come out, they kind of look a little bit like bony little hands like that, but it is still a very attractive specimen. I don't know, it's something about this tree. Maybe it's the way the branches kind of form and branch out. It's gorgeous. And so kind of a conflicting information that I received before I planted this tree. A lot of online websites say that this tree loves like shade condition or like part shade condition, but when I actually bought it, the tag says that it enjoys full sun. So I was like, that's what to do now, you know? I had a decision to make. But then again, like, I consider myself really fortunate in that I have, you know, even though I have an L-shaped backyard, but like almost 90% of the area of my yard receives at least like 7 hours of sun. And so literally that's like a part sun, part shade condition, right? So it's perfect. And so this tree has been doing really well in this spot that I have it. It receives like sun comes up from that direction there, and it receives about 6 to 7, and then in the afternoon like the sun will go into that direction and it'll get blocked by my neighbor's house right here, and so it is protected from hot afternoon sun, which is like perfect for it. If you have this tree, you might run into the same problem that I do. I don't even know if it's a problem or not, but it'll have like surface roots. Can't really see right now because I just dumped a bunch of soil in this area the other day, but sometimes like if I like, you know, remove all this mulch, you'll see like the surface roots, and I don't think that that's a problem in that it doesn't really harm the tree. What I do with it is just I keep this tree mulched so that, you know, it gets protected from like super hot sun or like, you know, cold winters. But yeah, so this tree, in terms of growth rate, I think it's slow to moderate. When I bought it, it was already big. It wasn't like the other trees that I bought that are like a foot tall. This tree came at already like 5 feet in height. I was impatient with this tree. Like I wanted a full-grown Japanese maple tree, like something for me to look at. And the location that I had it was literally right outside my patio and right outside my living room window. I just wanted to make sure that when I look outside my living room window, I see my Bloodgood Japanese maple like right away. I want this to be the first thing I see because the mere sight of this tree just makes me so happy. And so that's my Bloodgood Japanese maple. Now this is my cherry blossom, which is already done, you know, with its cherry blossoms for the season. But Autumnalis is a cherry blossom variety that blooms twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. It's really gorgeous when in bloom. Most of the growth and most of the width will be up top in the canopy. So even if you have a small space, I think this tree would still be suitable. At full grown, it will probably reach about 25 to 30 feet in height and probably the same thing in width. But like I said, like, you know, the width will be like, you know, in the top of the tree. Same thing with my Japanese Bloodgood. Like at full maturity, it'll probably be about 20 feet in height. But with the Japanese Bloodgood is, as you can see, like it has a lot of branches growing as low as like, you know, a foot from the ground. So with this tree, you want to make sure that you have enough space, like both width and height, because the branches kind of grow like pretty low. And you know, I've seen people plant Japanese Bloodgood in a container, and I think that works too. And I think, you know, within a container you can even control its size better, in that you can, you know, trim the roots or trim the branches. And so yeah, even if you have like a balcony, you can still grow a tree, you know. And I think trees make up, you know, like trees add as much value to the garden as flowers. As a matter of fact, I don't think a garden is a garden without at least one tree. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, that's it about the trees that I have in my yard, you guys. Oh, and let me show you what I have alongside my retaining wall. And if you have like a retaining wall or like, you know, a narrow border along the fence, you can even do some ornamental trees. Like I have, like these guys are ornamental Japanese dappled willows. I have 2 of those. They don't take up a lot of space at all. I don't think I can conclude this video without including these 3 trees. These are emerald green Arborvitaes, and they're super popular in my area. And they don't take up a lot of space. They grow tall and narrow. So this area here, I have only about 3 to 4 feet of width space to grow stuff. And these trees are doing exceptionally well in this area. So yeah, if you're looking for something like, you know, tall and narrow, these trees won't disappoint. And I can probably in the future, if I really wanted to, I can probably add like maybe 2 more trees in this area, but it would have to be kind of like a shade loving tree. So that's it, you guys. These are some of the trees that I have in my small space backyard. I hope you enjoyed walking through this with me, and I hope you know, you have some ideas of what trees you want to have in your garden. Oh, last but not least, I almost forgot about this very beautiful ornamental tree. This is my
phantom hydrangea or Hydrangea paniculata in a tree form, and I use this little tree as a focal point of my patio, and this tree is such a good companion tree to have. If you're looking for a good tree to put in your garden bed or border, this is perfect because it grows very, very well with other things next to it. Like I have a bunch of tulips and wallflowers and candy tuft, and in the summer you'll see lilies and all kinds of things. And for ground cover, I have a juga or a bugle weed, which is giving out like this really beautiful flower, purple flowers right now. And so yes, this tree will not grow taller than 10 to 12 feet. Like the trunk will not grow at all. The only growth in width that's gonna happen is in the top, which is the branches and the flowers. But yeah, this is a very, very gorgeous tree with white flowers. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed our walks today, and I hope you get some ideas from this. Thanks for watching, you guys. Happy gardening. Bye.